Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I am super excited to have Adam Nuse with us today. She is successfully running a thriving business, Tippy Toes, for over 20 years as a sought-after speaker and author of Designed for Greatness, Living an Inspired Life from Head to Tippy Toes. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited to hear more about you. And you know what the gift is about this? We will have conversations before we get started, but I love leaving the juiciness for like this conversation because we've never met, right? And so I just love diving in and just learning about you and how you got to be here. So fill me in and fill the listeners in and how you got to be where you're at today.
So long story that I'll make very short, but I was in college and I had a waitressing job and I just bought my very first car with my own money. And I got fired from my waitressing job for not showing up for being at a football game instead. And I got fired. Yeah. And so I had a car payment that I had to make payments. And I called my parents, panicked, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And when I was 12 years old, I would teach dance in my front yard to the neighborhood kids. And I did that from age 12 to 18. And so during that moment of panic, my mom reminded me, hey, why don't you go to the local daycare and just teach dance like you did in our front yard? And so in Norman, Oklahoma, one cold January day, I walked in to a preschool and said, can I come teach dance to your kids? And they loved the idea of me coming there. And that was the day that my business Tippy Toes was born. And I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know that 22 years later I'd be talking about it, but God had a big plan for my life and I just continued to follow the footsteps. And so here we are today.
Wow. So tell me about Tippy Toes. So when I think Tippy Toes, I'm going to go to ballet, but does it? Okay.
Yep. So we are a program that goes into preschool centers, after school programs, gyms. We teach ballet, tap, and jazz. We start really young. We start at 18 months, kind of a toddler and me.
That's fantastic.
And then we go up to age 12. It's not competitive dance. It's really, the goal is to reach kids where they're at and to be a convenience to parents and to let kids use their imagination, have a blast. We write our own music, which I feel like is really important because everything that happens in Tippy Toes is positive, encouraging. It enhances kids to use their imaginations. And now we've franchised across the US and now we're in China. So it's been one of these dream things that continues to happen. And I keep pinching myself being like, wow, I didn't believe this could happen. I didn't even know this was possible. And it just keeps growing, which is so fun.
I love that. And it's beautiful. And developmentally, I mean, I was a previous therapist. And so developmentally, movement and all the importance of movement and coordination and all of those, key developmental points that, you're activating and enhancing is powerful. So, wow, this is fantastic. So let me ask you this, because obviously that was a challenge initially, was just, getting having that kind of wake up call, be like, okay, I've got to figure something out. And, I'll tell people it is amazing what either a small or a gigantic crisis or a perceived crisis will do for us to get us into action. Right. And so what has been, as you have grown this and expanded this, I mean, you've been uber successful. What has been the biggest mindset challenge, barrier, or block that you've had to overcome on your journey?
So there's been a lot for me. I shared a story not too long ago that when I was in high school, I wrote a paper thinking it was awesome and turned it in. And I was really proud of it. I was not a great student. School was very hard for me. Now I look at the way education works, and there's so many different outlets than, to gear it towards people who learn in different ways. And I was one of those people, but I was in a very traditional school, and my teacher handed it back to me, and she said, "Sarah, you're just not a writer, are you?" And she was so loving and nice. Like, she didn't mean for that to stick with me, nor did I know that it would stick with me. And I have learned over time that it actually did. And so I think the power of words has been big in my life. But all that to say that I surrounded myself with some really great people. And I guess it was 3 years ago, one of my friends said, "Sarah, you have a book inside of you. I know you do. I really think you should write about your Tippy Toes story and all of your experiences." And I went back to 11th grade and I said, "Oh, I'm not a writer." And he said, "Who told you you're not a writer? You have a book inside of you." And he really pressured me into writing. And I wanted to, I had the desire, but I had these false beliefs that somebody told me that I was kind of having allowed be the narrative of my life. And it truly wasn't. And so now I have a book called Destined for Greatness, and it's the story of Tippy Toes. And so that was a huge mindset shift to me, to know that maybe just because somebody thought it was true in my past, that it really didn't have to come with me to my future. And really thinking about my grades and how hard school was. I think a lot of people would look at my report card, let's say, and say, "She'll never run a business." And now I run a worldwide business. And that goes to show that, we all work differently. We are smart sometimes. Maybe it's harder in the classroom, but that God gifted us each in different, unique ways. And it's our job to find that purpose that God put inside of us and really run towards that.
I agree with you. And this is what I talk about. This is what I teach and preach is, like overcoming those challenges and barriers. And it's powerful to think how one teacher, one, family member, one best friend, one, whoever that might be in your life can tell you something, and it festers, and we buy into it. I have a similar story where I was told that I was never going to be a public, I should never speak, right? Mm-hmm. Like public speaking. And then I'm like, but I like it. And, and I've kind of grown into it, but same thing is like, so I'm just going to invite the listeners. I want you to take a moment right now. Please don't do this if you're driving, but just take a moment to go back into the past. And what is it that you're looking to move forward with, that maybe you are stuck, trapped, or anchored into this reality of what, and it could have been something that someone said, and in passing, or just the way that you took it, right? Because we take that information, we put meaning to it. Okay. So maybe she was having a bad day. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Or, like, cause I've gotten my words mixed up more than I can imagine. And I like, no, I didn't mean that. Right. Whatever it was, but we took it on. We provided meaning to it. We created a fantastic story to it. We packaged it up and goes, "Oh, I'm not a speaker. I'm not an author. I'm not a blah, blah, blah." Right. And I just truly believe that, I don't know about you. I mean, this you're lining out so beautifully how one thing that we kind of dismiss, I feel like over time, it's like that's our biggest challenge to overcome. And when we overcome that, it is, it's just incredible. The amount of, I want to say the juiciness, the amount of pure joy that comes when we overcome that, but also, it was a timing thing where it was like, okay, this is when the timing of this book was supposed to come out. And I think that when we go back into like being divinely guided and, just trust the journey, I just think it's absolutely beautiful. So good for you for overcoming that. And good for you for not, continuing to carry that forward, because I think sometimes we carry that forward, and yet you listened to another person that says, "I see this amazing gem in you, and it's time," right? It's absolutely time for you to release this into the world. So what can, what was been, what is something that you have to constantly work on for yourself?
A lot, but I think one of the things that I'm really working on right now is confidence in who God created me to be. I think I talk in my book about, throwing confetti instead of criticism, but I also think throwing confidence into people's lives and then accepting it in our very own life. I think oftentimes we belittle ourselves and the very making of who we are and think other people have it better when really that's just boxing us in. And so I
Yeah.
constantly have to work on, I'm not her, I'm not him, but I'm me, and I can do really great things. I think the comparison can get really tricky. And so making sure that I am loyal to myself too and say, okay, how am I wired? What motivates me? Because I also know that God gives us the desires of our hearts. And so I have a desire to do something that's
Yeah.
not a selfish act if I pursue that. And so really taking inventory on myself and who I am and what's going to be best pushing me forward to be the best I can be. Because I also know when we use our own gifts and share that with people, it opens up a world that they have. And if we are gifted and talented in some area and we don't do anything with it, we're actually robbing a lot of other people. And I can use my book, for example. I was hesitant. I didn't have confidence to do it. But now that it's out, I have gotten so much feedback on little nuggets that I've said that have really impacted people. And I think, wow, what if I wouldn't have done that? Maybe this person wouldn't have been reminded of their greatness or different things that happen. And so I think often we think of ourselves like, oh, I want to be super humble, which we do, but then humble with confidence, I guess. So I think that's the challenge that I consistently am working on is be humble with confidence.
I love that. That's beautiful. What is, a tip, a tool, a strategy that you have found to be helpful in your journey that you can help support other, women entrepreneurs on their journey today that maybe you haven't shared yet today so far?
That's okay. One of the biggest things for me that I always think about, and I talk about it a lot, is soil responds to seeds, not wishes. And it's the soil in our life when we plant the seeds and actually do the work. I think a lot of times people have really grand ideas and plans. They don't have the confidence. And so they never plant the seeds. My husband, he used to work in baseball, and we were at dinner with a coach from the Oakland A's. And I was sitting across from him and I asked him, I said, how do you find the best players, like the best? And he said, you know what's funny? I don't look for the best. I look for the most consistent. He said, I don't look for the greatest. I look for those who are good every single day. And I really
That's great.
into my life that you don't have to be great, but you have to be good every single day. And if you are good every single day, people look at you and say, wow, how did you do that? And it's those small daily deposits that equal great success. And so if you have listeners that have a dream or a goal, something that they want to go after, you don't have to have a big moment. You just have to have lots of moments that are consistently put together. And then you look back and say, wow, I did that, or this happened, or this worked. And it's because of those small daily deposits.
I love that. Yeah. Being consistent, right? Being consistent in taking action. And I think so often we forget that we'll put out there like, hey, this is our target, this is our goal, this is what we'd like to create, but then we forget like those daily actions that's required. And it's just, what was the saying, I don't know, it's the turtle and the hare message, right? Like, slow and steady, right? Slow and steady wins the race, And so I think that's a powerful message of just saying, we don't have to be the greatest, we don't have to be the best, but as long as we're taking some sort of daily action towards it, we're going to get there. We're going to show up. I was talking about the other day, I was talking to this, a client of mine, and we were talking about like this GPS system, when we program in the destination, as long as we're taking, we're striving to go there, we will get there, right? But it's just a matter of taking action. Otherwise, if we do get distracted and we say, oh, well, you know what, instead of, if you're driving with me, this sometimes happens, I'll be like, well, GPS doesn't know what it's doing. Let me go on my own. And usually I have to go back and like, wait, okay, GPS, you were right. You know what I'm saying? But if we are staying on that path, we will arrive. And and I think sometimes we put some pressure on ourselves that we have to have it done overnight. And that I haven't met a person yet. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I haven't met a person yet that there was overnight success. We see it as, oh my goodness. Now people probably have seen you say, goodness, Sarah's been an overnight sensation. But I promise you, it probably wasn't that way. It was probably 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, before you were able to really say, okay, I've arrived at this level in my life. And you're not stopping there, right? You're going to continue to build and expand. So such a powerful message. Where can people find more about you?
Yes. So I have a website, sarahnuse.com. And then my book's on Amazon, Destined for Greatness. And so I'm there. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. But I love connecting with people, specifically people that really have a dream planted in their heart and can't really figure out how to have that confidence or what is the first step. I think oftentimes the first step is the hardest. It's like, I have this really big goal and dream, but it seems like a mountain. And it's like, no, actually just what do you need to do next? And my friend who, his name's Bob Goff, and he's a author, like a New York Times bestselling author. And so I sat down with him, I'm like, Bob, how do I even write this book? And he said, you'll just start with writing a sentence. And it was almost like, really? But truly, that's what it was. I needed to write the first sentence, then the first, paragraph, and then it just you start building upon things. And so that's, I'd love to connect with other women specifically who have these dreams and goals in their heart that want to move forward.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. We're going to put all the information down in the show notes. So please go check her out, go look at her up and find her book and buy her book. And Sarah, thank you for having the courage to step forward with this and continue to have a big impact in the world that you're having, because the more we impact other people by lifting them, the better we are off, right? So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.